boat ride down the San Antonio River, colorfully awash with a fiesta of musical entertainment.
They turned on the river for the Latin American ambassadors.
The river gripped it charmed everybody.
Then when they got off the barges, they went for dinner at the San Antonio Fair offices, the old German-American school that now is part of the hotel. Then the next morning, they went to San Fernando for Mass, and the president went to San Fernando for Mass with them, as did Miss Johnson.
Marshall and Patsy Steves hosted a luncheon for the group at their home.
There were about 160 people, and everybody was seated, and they had the most marvelous time.
Marshall Steves had arranged for a mariachi group to appear at the luncheon.
And he said, be here at 12 o'clock. And they didn't come. They didn't show up.
I went ahead without them and tried to host as best we could, whoever was there. And we finished that day. We go over to come home and go to bed.
Well, we were sound asleep when this bang, bang, bang came on the door, and Marshall rushed out in the hall, didn't know whether to call the police or open the door, and he finally opened the door, and it was the mariachi group, and they said, we're here, it's 12.
Once we had a site, then we were on firmer ground.
But still, it wasn't smooth sailing. A ruckus erupted between preservationists who wanted more of the old structures saved and the people who needed to move the HemisFair project forward.
Then, of course, the city had to sell the citizens on the idea that a $30 million bond issue was important to take care of the city's cost of the urban renewal to acquire the land.
A logo was designed to reflect the fair's theme, the confluence of civilizations in the Americas, and site design work began.
And then, of course, that bond election for the tower, to build the Tower of the Americas.
Fairs have theme structures. So, what's going to be the theme structure? We need a theme structure. I got 3 or 4 calls a day, every day. What's the theme structure for the fair? Well, we don't know yet.
Chairman of the HemisFair Board, H.B. Pat Zachary, was opposed to having a tower.
Mr. Zachary thought that the tower was a great Texas brag.
Pat Zachary felt like, towers were passé, that all fairs have something like that. Let's do something more unique. But we could never decide what was more unique. We even talked about a Tivoli garden.
The tower idea finally won out.
O'Neill Ford's architectural firm received the design contract for the Tower of the Americas. Boone Powell became Ford's point man on the tower, and the firms of Lyda and Lott were selected for the construction.
People came from all over to watch them raise that inch by inch by inch and take it to the top.
We built the tower, we put the house around it, and we're lifting it up through a series of lifts. And got it about halfway up when some of the cables broke, and it was very fearful that it was going to fall completely to the bottom, and it did get sort of cattywampus and stayed about maybe a third from the ground without slamming down to the ground. And then we called in cranes from all over the state to come in and help lift that thing back in place.
They had a big old sign on the side of the tower, which was raised in place after being built on the ground, Lyda-Lott. And they were about 8 to 10 weeks behind schedule at one point, and the thing was going up, and it said Lyda-Lott. And the standard phrase around town was, yeah, they Lyda-Lott.
We would drive down every day to watch the progress as they raised the restaurant up to the top. It was quite exciting. We thought that was pretty cool for 1967.
Mayor McAllister was so proud of the tower, he had the whole town celebrating when the top house reached the top.
All of the air raid sirens, all of the fire trucks, people honking, everything as it reached the top.
The mayor insisted the city council ride up with him in the construction elevator and, of course, invited the media people. Lila Cockrell was the only woman in the group.
I was not just real excited about going up in the construction elevator to begin with. halfway up, the elevator just stopped. I mean, stopped. And so we all started looking around, and there was a television crew that was with us. So they started filming. And so I made this kind of silly remark, well, I guess if we're going to be on television, I better try to look brave. That was repeated on the television show that night.
The experts predicted that 7 million people would come for the fair, but where would they stay? San Antonio never needed that much hotel space before. One staff member spent 2 years trying to get a hotel chain to build a hotel for HemisFair.
You can't believe what boondocks San Antonio was thought of as being in the minds of everybody else in the world. Not to us, of course. We were the capital of North Mexico. We've been here since forever. Hilton wouldn't touch it. Marriott wouldn't touch it. None of the hotel chains had it. Down in San Antonio, are you kidding? A major hotel? No way. About a year before the fair opened, Mr. Zachary said, I'll build it.
Everybody in the construction industry said it couldn't be done. And he put those rooms together out on the south side of town, and when they came in by truck, they had the furniture in them, the telephones in them, the beds were made, and they just put a big old gadget on top of them that looked like a helicopter with a blade sideways, and it fell up in the top of it. He flew it into place, and a little guy would run in and cable it up. He'd set it down and bolt it in place and go with it next to him. They'd bring another room in about every 25 and 30 minutes.
Kind of looked like a kid building out a building block.
The superstructure took them longer to build than it did to put the rooms up. The hotel was just boom, up, just like that.
The hotel was built in 202 days. It was the greatest success and achievement that Zachary did.
It was really a popular spectator sport in San Antonio at the time.
Between the tower and Zachary's Hotel was another less exciting but nonetheless very important construction project. The city had held another bond election for a badly needed civic center, arena, theater, and an extension of the river into this complex. Parking was a major concern for the fair, but a serendipitous solution appeared.
We were blessed with the fact that I-37 was completed from the north and completed from the south, but still the separation between them about where the dome is now. And so we had all that area that the state owned that we could use for parking.
2 other major permanent buildings were getting off the ground, the state of Texas and United States pavilions. Governor Conley was a frequent visitor to the site during this phase, checking on the progress. However, on one of these visits, he was not recognized by the guard and was stopped at the gate.
And so I was the only one left that with any authority. And I came down, the minute I saw the governor's with that #1 plate, I said, let him in, let him in.
Of particular interest to the governor was the Texas Pavilion.
So many of his high hopes, and it came to be mine too, were tied up in the Institute of Texas Cultures.
Governor Connolly wanted the Texas Pavilion to be super, and he hired good architects.
And sent them all to Mexico City to see the Museum of Anthropology.
And he said, I want everybody to go down there and look at that thing and come back and make my pavilion as exciting as that.
It was essentially a very innovative design known as an earth berm design.
I had never been introduced to that bit of architecture before. That was most impressive.
We used to laugh about that $1 million berm. They called it a berm, and today I look at it and I think it was architecturally really very attractive. That inverted pyramid that the building sits in, and then this $1 million mound of dirt. The only way they could do that was to haul it in.
Well, all of the folks there called it the beached whale, because instead of water, you had part of it in the earth, and the rest of it was above, and it looked like a beached whale for a while.
And then the rains came.
As I recall, there was a great deal of rain. I think the month of February that year, it rained 22 out of 28 days.
You know, it started raining in January, and it just looked like it was never going to stop raining, and that was when all the fair was having to be completed, and trucks were breaking down and getting stuck, and all sorts of things.
And they were just working right through this, paving in the rain.
I had to get across Alamo Street, which was totally unpaved at that point, and it was solid mud.
The pace was fast and furious, and amazingly, some say miraculously, HemisFair was taking shape.